Okay, so you've decided to homeschool, or maybe you're like, okay, I guess I'm sold on this homeschooling thing, but where do I even start? That is what I'm going to attempt to answer in today's video. If you are new here, I'm Christina, and I am a homeschooling mom to 5 kids ages 2 through 14. I am so excited to talk about this because if you clicked on this video, this means that you are looking to start homeschooling, and I am so happy for you. I believe you're making the right choice. I am so excited to dive into how you make this happen. Hopefully, I can help you realize that it is not nearly as overwhelming as it may seem ahead of time. If you've decided to homeschool, first thing you want to do is you want to look up the homeschool laws in your state. And so the way that you can do that is you can click the link in the description box to the HSDLA, which is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. That is the easiest way to figure out what are the specific requirements for homeschooling in my state. Now, I do not want you to be overwhelmed even by the sound of homeschool laws. It is really not as bad as it sounds, but it's good for you to know what's expected of you in your state. What are your first steps? So I have a whole playlist with myself and a bunch of other moms. We did this almost a year ago that I will try to find and link down below for what it's like homeschooling in all different states. Obviously, we did not cover all 50 states, but we did give you a wide variety to show you the differences between low, medium, and highly regulated states for homeschooling. I am speaking from someone who lives in one of the highest regulated states in the country, and I am telling you that it's not nearly as bad as it sounds. So I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty of the homeschool laws because I do have a video that outlines all of that for you, but I'll just give you a brief example of what that might look like for you. I know for New York, you have to send a letter of intent, which is like a very short paragraph stating a few specific things like birth date, name of child, the school year, and what grade they would be in, and that you intend to homeschool them. And that is the first step. And then you'll get a letter back from them, and then you'll send them like your curriculum plans, which is like a 1-page form for me, the way that I do it as a chart. And then you'll have like quarterly reports and then an end of year assessment or narrative that you can write. And so again, I'm not going to dig into all of those details, but that's coming from a highly regulated state. So most states are going to be less than that. If you want more information, check out the HSDLA website and or the playlist that I've linked down below for you on that. So you have figured out the homeschool laws, you realize that it's totally doable, or maybe you're still a little bit nervous, but then, okay, so what's the next steps? I told my school district that I am going to homeschool. Where do I even start? So I would say jumping into picking curriculum is probably not the place to start. I would start one of 2 places. Number 1, think about what your main reasons are for homeschooling. Think about your why. So what are the reasons you chose to homeschool? What are your goals for your child? What is most important to you? Maybe you pick your top 3 most important things. Maybe you pick your top 5 and you're like, these are the 5 most important things. I want them to have a strong faith. I want them to be able to be outside as much as possible. I'm just throwing some random examples out for you. Everyone has different reasons for wanting to homeschool, although there may be similarities. Not everyone has the exact same reason. So maybe you're like, I want more time together. I want more time in nature. And so I would say the first thing that you want to do before you even get into choosing curriculum is to ask yourself like what you're really looking for in your homeschool, what you want for your family, what you want for your child, and what you really hope for it to look like. If you're struggling to come up with that, then I say to do this anyway, but especially if you're struggling to decide like what you really want out of homeschooling, follow some homeschool moms on Instagram. Follow some homeschool moms here on YouTube. I have a ton of homeschool moms that I love to follow in both places. And so if you're not already following me over on Instagram, you can follow me over there at rooted_homelife. Find homeschool moms. You may find some that you don't resonate with at all, and that's okay. You might find some that you like some of what they stand for or some of what they do, but not everything. Great, you're figuring out what you like and what you hope for in your homeschool and with your children. Whether you need to do that before you decide what's important to you, or you need to do that while you're deciding or maybe after you decide. I think it's a really great idea to do either way. I definitely would recommend being very prayerful about asking God, what is His vision for your homeschool? Why has He called you to this? What is it that He is wanting you to do or focus on? What do your children need? And so some things are universal that all children need, right? But then there are specific things that your children need based on their personalities, their experiences so far, your family dynamics, where you live. And so seek the Lord, do your research, and then come up with what are those things. That way, every time you come across a curriculum, you can ask yourself, does this align and fit in with what I really want for my homeschool? And I'm going to give you an example of what I mean. Some people follow a very rigid structure and they kind of almost try to recreate school at home, or at least parts of it. And I don't judge that, but that's not my style. They probably have a specific curriculum and they have a specific course for each subject and each grade level represented in their home. And so if they have 2 kids, then each of those kids would have every subject, they would have a course for it. That is not the way we homeschool. And I'm going to give you an example of why. Academic rigor is not one of our main priorities, although I want them to be well educated, as well as wanting them to be critical thinkers. That is not our main focus. And I will dive into more of what our main goals are in another video, especially for the upcoming school year. But I'll give you one example. Connection over curriculum is one of my main goals for our homeschool. And so we do a lot of family style learning. So for us, something like Gather Round Homeschool, for areas where we are using curriculum, because we don't need to use curriculum for everything, right? So that's another thing that I want to mention, is some people use curriculum for everything. Some people use curriculum for some things, and some people don't use any curriculum at all. So I want you to know that all of those are options, and you may need to do some experimenting to figure out what is best for your child. So I just want to provide that one example. For us, for Gather Round Homeschool, it's built around family style learning and togetherness and doing as much together as possible. And then there's some independent work that kids do at their level based on what you've learned together as a family. And so I just want to give you one example. So if connection and togetherness is one of our main goals, then it wouldn't make sense for me to have this strict, academically rigorous curriculum where they have a course book for every single subject and every single grade level in our family. That is not going to work for us. It is going to make us lose heart. It is going to make me feel like I made the wrong decision. It's going to make it feel overwhelming and not doable. And it's not going to feel or look like what is in my heart. So it's just not going to work. And same goes for if you really want to be out in nature and outside as much as possible. If you have all of that curriculum that you need to get through every day, you are going to find yourself not able to be outside and exploring as much as you really want to. And so I want to encourage you that you want to have in mind what you want it to look like, or at least an idea of what those priorities are. If you're like, I don't know what it's going to look like, but have your priorities set out before you're choosing curriculum so that you can ask yourself, does this fit in with what our priorities and dreams and goals are for our homeschool? If they seem like they're a great fit, then go ahead and try it out. Maybe you don't decide to buy all the curriculum from that one company for every subject. What I recommend doing if you're starting out homeschool is start one subject at a time. So maybe you want to buy everything up front and maybe it ends up working out great. But maybe you buy everything up front and then you decide like, this doesn't work for us. We don't even like this. This doesn't even fit our goals. It doesn't fit my child's learning style, or maybe it fits this child's learning style, but not this child. I strongly recommend, in order to make it not feel overwhelming for all of you, to start with one subject. Start with a family subject. Start with an exciting unit study. If you're starting in the fall, start with a unit study about trees and leaves and nature and birds that are out in the fall, and learn together. And then once you're in that flow and rhythm, be like, okay, it's time to add in math maybe now. And math is probably one of those areas, and I'm sure there are families that figure out how to do it all together, but it is one of those areas that may be a little bit more independent or age or ability level specific. So you figure out what works for each child in that regard. Not every single one of my children use the same math curriculum because they're all different in the way that they learn. And so I'll be sharing that more in the future as well. But I encourage you to look at different options. There are some that are completely online that don't require you to teach them at all. There are some that are a combination between like video lessons, but then also with a physical textbook. There are some that are just textbooks where you're teaching them everything. So knowing your abilities and your strengths as a mom, as well as their needs as a learner. And maybe they have different needs in different subjects, right? Like maybe they're really strong in math, so they don't really need much of your support. But maybe they need a lot of support in reading and comprehension, or maybe with history. History and science are great areas where you can come together for a lot of collaborative learning, as well as things like Bible and literature and stories and things like that. So there's so much that you can do together if that's a goal that you have. And I would say if you have more than one child or you have multiple children, as many family subjects as possible, in my opinion, really helps to keep connection and togetherness, and also doesn't have you like trying to manage too many things and becoming overwhelmed. So then maybe you have a family subject that you're doing together, like science or nature study, and then you've worked in math, which is more of an independent levels, and you feel like, okay, we're ready to add in the next thing. Well, then maybe you add in history. That's a mix of both family subject and independent learning. Like maybe you pull in a unit from Gather Around Homeschool, where you do the main lesson together, but then everybody has their individual notebook pages that they do at their level after the lesson. And then see where things go from there. You know, you don't have to do every subject every day. Maybe you find that your family gets really into one subject for a long time and you don't get to the other subject and you're like, oh my gosh, this isn't okay. It is okay. You can just start with those subjects the next day. You could decide that one week, all you're gonna do is one subject because you guys are doing a deep dive and you're going to the library and you're getting books out and you're doing projects and you're going on field trips and oh my gosh, we didn't get to history this week. Well, then focus on it next week. So you don't have to decide ahead of time what a schedule is going to look like. Some families follow a very particular schedule. At different times they do different things. On different days they do different things. And then some families go for more of a rhythm of a flow. And that's kind of how we operate. That works well for some families and some personalities, and for some it doesn't. And so you may want to just experiment for what works and then build a structure based on that. Or maybe you're the type of person where you're like, no, I need to have a plan and a schedule ahead of time. And then maybe you build that and it works and you just make small adjustments. Or maybe you try that and you're like, this doesn't work at all. And I say all that to say, like, don't get discouraged if what you're trying right away doesn't work and think that you made the wrong decision. It just means that maybe you need a different schedule. Maybe you need a different curriculum. Maybe you need less curriculum. Maybe you need more time outside. Maybe your kids need more active play. Maybe you need to let them take the lead a little bit and choose things with you. So I just want to encourage you not to get overwhelmed or discouraged when it comes to homeschool laws, when it comes to choosing curriculum. So just to recap, the main things that you need to do is to check the homeschool laws in your state, figure out what you need to submit to your school district, decide what are your main priorities or your vision for your homeschool, connect with other moms or at least follow them on Instagram or YouTube or both or whatever platforms you use. Then start choosing curriculum based on what you think your priorities are. And those might change once you dive in, but having an idea ahead of time to weigh those curriculums against to make sure they align with what your goals are is a good idea. And then lastly, do sort of a slow roll into the curriculum instead of being like, okay, week 1, day 1, we are doing every subject today, let's go. You will burn yourself out and suck the joy out of it. It is very likely that is what will happen. Choose books that you can read aloud together as a family. Find ways to make it fun. Learning doesn't need to be hard. Love of learning is the beauty of being able to homeschool. So I'm sure you guys have questions. Put them down in the comments below. I would love to answer them down in the comments below. If you have video requests or things that you really need more information about, drop that down in the comments below too. And there's a chance that I can do a follow-up video. If you are not already following me, again, over on Instagram, you can follow me over at rooted_homelife. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you feel encouraged. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you are not already subscribed, I would love if you would stick around. I share all different things, homeschooling, motherhood, big family life, faith, all of the things here on my channel. So I hope to see you soon in one of my next videos. And until next time, stay rooted.